What is up, YouTube? This is RP Model Railroads here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my HO scale Faller coal mine, B945, that I recently finished building and weathering for the Ephrata Coal Company on my Ephrata Valley Railroad 4x8 layout. This coal mine was by far the most complex HO scale building that I've ever put together. It took me 9.5 hours to completely build this thing, and that doesn't include the time that I spent after weathering it. I did use super glue while building the kit, so it did make the quick setting process of the pieces a lot faster, so that sped up my time, but this was a very complex kit, which is why it took me such a long time. Also, I'm not a building expert, so I did my best in terms of building this together, following the directions, and I think it turned out pretty good, especially considering the following. So I bought this coal mine kit still in the box, supposedly open, but all the parts were there off of eBay. And once I received it and opened up the box and got to the actual coal mine box, opened it up and went through all the parts, I found out the most important piece, the plastic base for the entire building, was missing. So I took a good look at the instructions and determined that I could put the coal mine together without the base, and if I used some scenery items around the base of both buildings in the Faller coal mine setup here, I wouldn't necessarily need a base. Now, the only problem that then presented itself to me was the fact that actually Faller set up this coal mine kit to be fully functional, in a sense, because I know from building it that inside the smaller building here, somewhat of a shed, the base itself had notches to hold a motor, which was not included in the kit. That would have to be purchased separate. And that motor would then be used to turn a pulley that would turn the strings, or really what would be cord if it's an HO scale, around the two large pulley wheels inside the tower of the coal mine, and that wraps down to another pulley down inside the tower that's hidden inside the building, and the entire thing would move by the power of a motor that would be hidden inside the shed, which I thought was pretty cool. But unfortunately, because I didn't have the base and no real way that I could mount the motor in place, and plus I didn't have the motor to begin with, I just decided to build the kit without the base, and of course without the motor I would not be able to motorize it. But I did keep all the pulleys free so that if in the future I ever do get a base or get a motor and I decide to motorize this thing, I should be able to do that. I did glue the string in place just for the sake of display because it was a nightmare to try to get this fully set up on the layout. Even after it was built, I had to take the tower back apart and restring the whole thing. Yeah, I'm not good at building model kits, but this definitely was a very complex kit. But nonetheless, it is a very huge coal mine. In fact, it's probably one of my favorite HO scale buildings of all time, and it was definitely a dream to finally get a building like this and finally be able to build it. After I built the coal mine, I decided to go ahead and weather it, and I watched a few videos, and again, I am not a weathering expert either. In fact, this was actually the first time that I tried using black acrylic paint watered down with water and brushing it on the building to create a weathering effect. I watched several YouTube videos from people that are much better at weathering than I am, needless to say, and I decided to give it a go, and it turned out pretty good in my opinion. I weathered the entire building. Really, the details can be appreciated in person. The camera doesn't pick up all of the black, but I did a full black wash, if you will, around the entire building, and I did about 2 to 3 coats on the roof to give it a good, dirty looking feeling. And I did the same thing on the smaller building over here, as you can see, particularly in the notches in the roof. You can really see the black wash there. I had to do that several times to get the weathering effect. And also all throughout the bricks of the building, the door, etc., just to give it that weathered look. And I did my best with weathering the cooling tower, if you will, right there behind the building. I did my best weathering that, in particular trying to make it look like it had been blackened over time from smoke coming out. I think it turned out pretty good. Again, I'm by no means a weathering expert, but I'm satisfied with how well this coal mine turned out. Once the coal mine had been built, weathered, and installed on the layout, I then decided to focus on the scenery on the ground below the coal mine. So I used the small bag of coal pieces included in the Faller coal mine kit and spread them on the ground, in some places in little piles to look like coal had been mined up from the earth. And I also did this in places where you could see, or I could see after building the kit, where the base had been necessary, so that it would look as if the base was never needed. I also put a little red 50s style dump truck in front of the chute, located in front of the coal mine with a load of coal in the back of the truck. And I kept the old Ephrata Coal Company, and weathered it as well with a black acrylic paint wash. I did a pretty light weathering job. I only went over it once, and I did the entire building, even though on camera it's a little bit difficult to see in some places, so who knows, I may come back and weather this again. But ultimately, I created exactly what I always dreamed of, an Ephrata coal mine mining complex. Now, obviously, the Faller coal mine kit is not exactly an American prototype, but I was pretty satisfied with how well the kit looked. I loved the design, and as it turned out, also the size of the coal mine. So, I think it'll fit in perfectly fine in my Ephrata Valley Railroad Small Town USA layout. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video and the pictures to follow up close of the weathering job that I did on this Faller coal mine, which is custom because it did not include a base and I had to do some other things to make it to fit in on the layout, but ultimately I'm highly satisfied with the new Ephrata coal mine. Thanks for watching.